Middle Cup.
Hey, beeps, man.
You sound like we got the Vegas invite, and they're not just bringing us to announce the Raiders. That you might have got a little residency at I don't know. You replacing Celine?
She's still singing?
I don't know.
I mean, she's got the one song. I mean, how many times can you sing that freaking song? You know, I don't know, but she probably. How many times do you think she sang the Titanic song in her life?
My life will go on, or whatever it's called.
10 million. I mean, honestly, she's probably sang it 250 days a year for the last 20 years. Maybe it was even, how old is that song? I mean, when did that movie come out? Mid-90s? Late 90s? We were in junior high.
That movie came out in like, that had to be like 97.
Yeah,
96, 98, somewhere like that. I went to the theater with a friend and my dad to see that movie.
So we're 24 plus years in. 200. Yeah, she sang it a lot. You know, thousands of times.
I mean, I would think it's like, the question is, you just hope when you're known for anything, like, do you like the thing you're known for? You know, when people walk up to you and be like, hey, father, say, hey, like your catchphrase, you know, if you have a catchphrase or something like that, do you like the thing that you're known for? Because if you don't, then it's miserable.
You know, what's funny is the trailer for the Sopranos movie is kind of making its rounds, you know, like 2 minutes. It's a prequel based on when Tony was a kid. And I just saw 2 seconds. I haven't even seen the whole trailer. But so the other night, I'm in bed. I go on YouTube and I just want to watch some like James Gandolfini interviews. And they're talking to Gandolfini, and the guy asks him, like, what do most people, like, you know, singer Chappelle said forever, people came up to him and like, Rick James, bitch. And they're like, when people come up to you on the street, what do they say? Do they first just, hey, ask you a question about Sopranos? They say, hey, James. He said, no. 99% of people for the last 15 years, the number one thing they say to me whenever they cross me in a restaurant, airport, wherever, is like, what's up, Tony? Like, they just call me Tony. You know?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, if I walk by him, I might, you know, RIP. I think that's just, you just see Tony Soprano. You're like, Tony, you know?
It's underrated. I think you see somebody that you really know in public that you don't know them, but they're famous. I think sometimes people probably do that. Not sometimes. People probably do that a lot, where you call the person by their character name instead of their real name. And part of it's just like, you're so overwhelmed that you're seeing this person. Yeah. You might not know exactly, you know, you just kind of, wait, oh my God, that's Tony. And
I think TV characters historically, more than movie characters, they weren't as famous, right? Like, if I saw Leonardo DiCaprio, I wouldn't call him by a character in a movie he played. Or Tom Hanks. They're Tom Hanks, right? Or that's Leonardo DiCaprio or Bruce Willis. Like, when you see James Gandolfini, I would imagine most people, or whoever, a big TV character, it was like that with the Friends group forever. You just think of their TV character, Rachel,
right?
Ross, you know, right? Tony, the Michael K. Williams, who just died a couple weeks ago, Omar from The Wire. I just think you would think of like the main character he played in the TV show, which is probably a little different for for movie characters, just because once you become such a, like Will Smith, you know, you wouldn't be like, Will, that's Mike Lowry from Bad Boys 1, 2, and 3. That's Will Smith.
Right. Mike Lowry.
Checking
the stream. Looks like, all right. Got a little issue here on our side, but it looks okay.
I'm crisp on my side.
I mean, you're checking I'm just checking the stream. We are streaming, right? Somebody confirmed to us in the comments that we are streaming. I just looked, we are, but it's not showing up in every spot. It usually gives me some analytics on the screen I'm looking at right now that it's not showing me.
What issue did you see? Let me double check.
Well, there's just a couple little things that aren't, that are but it looks like the stream is flying. So if you could, yep. Okay. Everyone's seeing it. All right. So we're good.
I see us live right now. Rocking and rolling.
So do I. It doesn't, some of the, it might be a YouTube issue then. All right, John, this show is sponsored by our friends at Tito's Handmade Vodka. Our friends and your friends, Tito's Handmade Vodka. I actually have with me today a pack of, everyone, cards are back. I don't know if you know about this.
I do.
Cards are back. They are
Yeah.
blowing up. I've got some cocktail cards here.
Oh,
For those of you listening, I have not opened this pack of Tito's cocktail cards yet. And maybe I'll just pull one out, and I assume they're recipes. Maybe we got a recipe for the weekend.
maybe they're saying, or a toast. Oh,
No, they're cards. I got trading cards. We've got a Tito's warm-up. Oh, this is perfect. A Tito's halftime, an underdog, timeout. They're all sports related. A Tito's halftime. Okay, this is Tito's, tea, lemonade, and a lemon wedge.
Oh, not bad.
Yeah.
Oh, so they are all.
I think it's a John Daly.
Right. Yeah.
How awesome is that? I just pulled a card out of the pack. It's called the Tito's halftime, and it just happens to be a John Daly.
That's pretty sweet. I could go for one right now, actually. It's 2:00. Ooh, sounds fantastic.
Jacob just asked, is it a Tito's rookie card? Yeah, a Tito's beverage. I don't think that's an accident, John. Tito's handmade vodka, as good as it gets.
This weekend, #1 vodka in America. I challenge you, make yourself a John Daly. If you haven't had, I know a lot of our listeners, I mean, we've seen a million of your pictures over the last month and a half, but have a John Daly. If you go out to a restaurant, you take your girlfriend, take your wife, meet a buddy, just if you have not had one, just ask for a John Daly with Tito's. You will not be disappointed. Honestly, you'll be like, this is an Arnold Palmer. It's incredible. Then all of a sudden you're like, I got a little buzz. Of course you do, because it's the #1 vodka in America. It goes down smooth. This guy had a vision. His name's Tito Beverage. That's where they get the name Tito's. No big deal. And it's what we're all drinking. And I can't recommend it enough. We've given you guys several recipes. Now we're off, rocking and rolling. And know this, when you get something from Tito's, when you order a cocktail at a restaurant, or when you go into, one of your retail Safeways, a Bevmo's, whatever, know that it's American made. Bottled and distilled in Austin. All their, operation is in this country, America. And we take a lot of pride in when we work with companies and they say that this is serious. And that obviously doesn't happen often with alcohol anymore.
Yeah, Tito might actually be slapping the label on the bottle that you bought.
Yeah,
that's possible. Because from the beginning, the man built it with his hands, and it's still true to the original roots, John, which is quality, going the extra mile for quality, substance, charity, being a good community member. Tito, 6-time distilled in copper pots, not because it is easy, but because it is hard and better. Labor intensive, yes, but fantastic.
Yeah. So get on it right now. Support Tito's. When you support Tito's, you support us. They're obviously, the official vodka of, this little thing called the PGA Tour. Now they're partnered with the Ryder Cup, America Cup. Golf, Hayward Middlecoff, a lot of connections here. Who knows where this could one day go, but I have some visions, some thoughts. I am just glad that they're associated with us. We feel honored, humbled, and, we just keep pushing the message. Tito's, go have yourself a cocktail this weekend.
Keep sending us photos of you, of your drinks. Distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas, 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly. Podcast also brought to you by mybookie.ag, promo code HAM1. Mybookie.ag, promo code HAM, and the number 1. If you use HAM1, they will match your deposit dollar for dollar up to $1,000. If you accept the bonus, you have to bet the full amount, whatever that amount that you deposited is, before you withdraw funds. You can also decline the bonus, but either way, HAM1, that way they know we sent you. Have we locked in our lock of the week and dud of the week? Yeah,
we did, Guy. We did. MyBookie.ag, promo code HAM1. We talked about it. When were we talking? A little later on Tuesday, huh? So like Tuesday around dinner time. Didn't do anything until Wednesday morning, and I looked and the number had gone up. When we were talking, it was 5.5, and I locked it in at Pats -6. I feel very good. I forwarded a tweet on Wednesday with a Pats player that was a wake-up call. And to me, that means, you always say this about college players, they just reiterate what their coach says. Pros sometimes can be hit or miss with that, but I do feel he was talking as if Belichick was talking through this guy. They're playing the Jets, who Belichick once coached, and then he quit. He hates the Jets. They just lost to the Dolphins. It's all divisional related. McCorkle played good. The Jets had a million injuries, a little 49er style. I think the Pats, I'm not trying to be cocky, 28-10. That's what I feel.
I would love to see a historical line. I did not have time to look that up before this stream, this podcast. What the line typically is on this game, because I gave you the stat. Bill has only covered against the Jets 5 out of the last 14 games, and they play twice a year. Now, and the Jets
Divisional
have been
games
bad.
are tougher. Yeah, I mean,
Jets have been bad in that stretch, last I checked. But you're right. Mac McCorkle looked good last week. I thought looked efficient, didn't turn the ball over, and that was against a much better secondary, Miami secondary, than this Jets secondary. Now,
can I give Adam Gase a little praise, a little familiarity? He had coached for the Dolphins, then he got the Jets. He'd just seen Belichick a lot, right, in that division for like 7 years.
Okay, you saying it's a different animal for Mike LaFleur?
Yeah, I'm just saying LaFleur and Robert Saleh, like they're just not used to Bill. Like when you're just in the division, the cross tape, you're just kind of inundated with the Patriots, right?
Yep.
You just see them a lot.
I will say I did think Zach Wilson, one of my takes before even the preseason was, is he going to look big enough on an NFL field? The answer is yes. And not only that, I thought he looked pretty athletic. Now, he did get sacked 6 times, and Mekhi Becton got hurt. Not just got hurt, John, had the old dislocated kneecap. So he's out 4 to 6. So he lost really good offensive linemen. So he can't just make some plays. Like, it'll be an interesting kind of back and forth, the dynamic play of Zach, where clearly there's not a lot of like playing within the offense right now, still early. And Zach and Mac, it's just it's going to be a somebody attack, either a Mac attack or a Zach attack. You can go ahead and write those headlines Monday morning. You're welcome. Mac attack, Zach attack, Daily News or Boston
Post.
Herald.
Yeah.
Post. But it's going to be an interesting kind of, we can look at the two guys, the guy that went 2 and the guy that, many people believe should have gone 3.
Yeah, I had a midweek edible session mixed with an iPad and Game Pass where I just kind of pick a game that I haven't
That's
really
how Bill
seen
does
much.
it.
Yeah, instead of Bill, he rewinds the same play 17 times. I'm skipping at rapid speed. I take a 35-minute condensed game. I consume in about 6 total minutes.
The problem is in the condensed, you skip ahead and then you got to go back, and we need something a little tighter.
But I'm just looking for a total of like 10 throws from one individual player. It does look sweet coming out of the young Mormon's hand. It does
look sick.
I understand when people go, he's got little Aaron Rodgers, just the ball out of his hand. It looks badass.
Yeah.
He definitely is a talented player. There's no disputing that. Talented arm. All right.
So that's our lock of the week recap. Our dud of the week. Our dud of the week is we're betting against the Jags. I mean, if your coach, I guess it's not always the same if your coach has to answer questions about whether it is the same. There's a difference between are you interested in that job, Mario Cristobal at USC, and Urban, are you interested in that job? Everyone thinks you hate life right now. Now, maybe it's not true that he hates life right now, but that's what we're doing right now. We are betting against the Jags.
We are shorting Urban Meyer in the NFL. If you told me he goes to USC, I'd be like, playoffs 2 years. Like he's made for college. You just see he's not really. You see that he, I guess the NFL quietly, the rule of it where the opposing coach has to get on a conference call with the away media. The NFL no longer mandates that. And Florio had a good point. That used to be the one time when opposing coaches could get in uncomfortable situations, because a lot of times the home media, season's long, you got to pick your spots with the guy. But like an Urban Meyer, like he immediately cancels with the Denver media. And that crossover, you just get crazy questions to whoever last year you get Doug Peterson week 8. You don't care about asking some crazy question about Carson Wentz, or you just kind of ease into it with when it's your home guy.
Yeah.
So that no longer has to do that. I would imagine Belichick will be 0 for 17 now on that phone call.
Who is going to do that?
I bet some guys I think some guys use it to vet, or not vet, but vent. Just vent their frustration. Sometimes it's like, who am I going to scream at? I don't want to scream at any of my own people, but I can just kind of get after it with some people.
I guess maybe there would be a specific, if you're playing some specific game with the opponent, that it helps to get some narrative out there that you want out there.
It'd be an easy just tell your PR guy I'm out.
Anybody's doing this just to vent. Like, they don't want to do that call.
You're right.
Mr. Superfly on YouTube says Zach Wilson gives me Aaron Rodgers vibes. I think that's what he's going for.
Yeah.
I think
they had the joint practice where they were hanging out.
I think he's going for the Rodgers Favre vibe. Now, the play. I mean, the recent Rodgers vibe is just
He's got a weird
I mean,
look
they
going.
got this week.
He's got a weird look going. So mybookie.ag, promo code ham1. Get your gamble on. Really quick before we dive into 49ers, can we just give a round of applause here for Guy Haberman? As you see on YouTube, he's got a new backdrop. Homeowner. He moved to Malibu, California, $17 million home. Tito's very good for him. Fucking awesome, bro. This is homeowner, Malibu, California. Or Schwarzenegger. I don't even know who your neighbors are. Al Michaels. But it's sweet.
Oh, thank you. Middlecoff offered to use of his Hummer several times to help me move stuff. I declined. Shout out to the guys at Great Wall Moving Company who, put in an incredible amount of work.
I would have helped, Guy. I didn't want to, but it's the right thing. I mean, I was there. I was ready. If you said yes, I knew you probably would not, force me to do it. But again,
we've moved together before. Moving, it's a big job. It feels like there are just things. I don't know. We'll find out. Like once upon a time, you didn't hire movers. I think you just called 3 friends. Like, yeah, we'll help you move. And the world has moved past that. It's the DoorDash, the DoorDashification of Earth. I'll just gonna pay somebody. I'm not gonna ask anybody to do that.
Well, it's like whenever I hear a story,
or is that just my feeling?
Well, I think that the thing that used to happen a lot was like friends would pick you up from the airport. Like, bro, ride.
I remember
the airport.
Chris
moving is sometimes you need someone's truck or something.
That's true.
But not like I don't necessarily need the human. But hey, can I borrow that for myself? And the person would say, yeah. But like, you don't pick me up at the airport. Like, get your fucking Uber.
Pick me up at the airport. I remember our neighbor Chris Kelch taking us to the airport for a family trip to Israel in I don't even know what year.
Happened to my parents all the time. They had friends
at 5 a.m.
Oh,
hey Chris, do you mind taking us to the airport? Yeah, sure, no problem. Dan, what time do you guys leave? Oh, we're heading out at 5. Great, I'll be there with the van. Now it's like I'd rather,
yeah,
I can't ask somebody to do that.
I'm with you.
There are things that you pay for and you watch them happen, or it's like buying a meal where you're like, oh, that was expensive, but it was worth the money. There are things that you pay for where you're handing the cash over and you're like, that was worth it. And moving is, I think, one of those things. All right.
Give him a big tip.
I think so. I hope so.
You feed them dinner?
I did not. I did not get them dinner. They didn't break for a bathroom break.
Do you think rating what we do for a living relative to what they do for a living, what job's more difficult?
There are a couple times where they were working really hard. I realized I was doing this. They were like forcing a mattress up some stairs.
Like, was it cold in the city yesterday, or was it like a hot day?
It was not hot. No, it was cool. Nice breeze, but they were.
So if you're in a full-on sweat, when they were moving out of the city, that's they're working.
They were working, and there were a couple times I noticed I was doing this to try and let them know I understood they were working hard. This was after I snuck away for a pepperoni, a salami sandwich. I came back and was like, "Oh, everything good here, guys?"
You went somewhere to grab the sandwich, or you made the sandwich?
I didn't do it in front of them. But a couple times they were working really hard, working on this mattress, and I standing off to the side would kind of wipe my nose, like, oh, whew, like that, just to kind of appreciate how hard they're working. But they're probably like, "What are you about?" Like, you're just standing over there with your arms crossed watching us.
It is a weird feeling as the person paying the person to do the service, where you're kind of doing some work, but they're doing. So there's a lot of time you just kind of watching them do their craft.
Yeah.
But you also just naturally as a human, you feel kind of lazy. Like, should I help? But you're like, well, I am paying them to do it. So it's that weird kind of Larry David Seinfeld, well, it's their job, but you're also as just a guy that was raised to, work hard. You're like,
do your own
feel
work.
Lazy as shit.
Absolutely. But it's also, I trust you guys, but I don't really know you. I don't want you chipping anything, but I got to keep an eye on you, but I don't want you to feel like I'm hovering too much, but it is my stuff. So
I don't know. It's a tough predicament to be in.
As my dad told me when I was talking to him on the phone yesterday, he's like, you know what every mover understands? Every mover understands that one day, all this shit that you're so concerned about them not damaging is going to end up in some landfill after you die and your kids don't want it anymore.
Yeah. Or just as you change in life and you get rid of it and you get something new. Right.
Yeah.
Hell, you might be alive when I have this stuff.
He was sending me a message maybe, which was, feel free to throw all my shit away. That's how I
My
took that.
my mom's the opposite. She's a hoarder.
She makes you keep everything. John, you
Oh.
promise me this crystal bowl will be in our family for
Oh
generations.
my God. It's like, Mom, this thing didn't look good in 1978. It doesn't look good in 2021.
All right, should we dive in?
Yeah, let's dive in.
I put a table up so you can come over and have some Tito's whenever you want.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, let's begin with this, John. Steve Young, who definitely pays movers. Steve Young said this on KNBR about the Niners quarterback situation, Garoppolo and Trey Lance. The whole thing is fraught with terror, right? As we said before in the offseason, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan could not have screamed any louder to any of us. They went all in a year where they thought they'd have a shot to go from 12 to the top 5 for the generation that's going to be Kyle and John's signature. They decided we don't want Jimmy to be our quarterback, and yet here we are. He's been very he has we talked about
Well, he's lived it. You know, when you talk to someone who's got a divorce and then you're going through a breakup, I'm sure it happens like when people are going, you know, business is going under, and you know it happens in the restaurant business all the time. So you talk to someone else in the restaurant business, like, I know exactly. It just invokes that emotion that probably goes away when he's just with his family and his kids. But immediately when he gets asked, and this is probably the number one question he gets asked, I'm sure by a country mile, it just, you and I think you read it, I listened, just that moment, what he went through with Joe, like that was a powerful time in the guy's life, right? That 4 or 5 year stretch, and he sees it. Now, the Niners could only hope and pray that it's 50% of the outcome of what it happened with those guys, right? With Trey would be, if he's half the player Steve Young is, they're in pretty good shape. And clearly Jimmy's not Joe, but it is a bizarre situation, I'd say, right? Because the thing with the Bears, I watched a little bit of Nagy talk today. I just follow the Bears on Twitter, and I just saw his face, so I listened to a little bit. And he was being asked, like, you know, did you actively try to hide that you were going to play Justin Fields? And he's like, yeah, I mean, what was the point if we were going to use him? Like, we're not just going to be like, yeah, we're probably going to use him 7 plays. Kyle, and that's how I think most coaches would be, right? He's like, what was I just going to tell Sean McVay? Get ready for him. 3rd play, 2nd series. We got to run to the left. Kyle was pretty open with it, right? He was playing him a ton in camp, and rightfully so. I mean, it was sneaky open competition, but it really wasn't. And then he was just like, yeah, get ready. And then the last preseason game, that was nuts. So I don't think he kind of acted like, I don't really have anything to hide because I don't really
Not
care.
like McVay was tricked, but yeah.
Not like, I know, but I mean, Kyle was very, very upfront with his blueprint. And honestly, that is kind of a message to Jimmy. Like, listen, I don't value, like, it doesn't matter to me.
Well,
like,
you know what it is?
Using you guys both a little like widgets, right? Whoever's the better guy, I'm just going to roll with it.
Well, but see, that's what Steve Young is saying, is like at a certain point, it's not about who's the better guy. At a certain point, it's not, even if Jimmy's better, they're going to make a switch. I think that's part of his point. It's like,
well, it's inevitable.
Every coach loves to say, when you say to them, you know, especially college coaches, it's like the spring, and you'll be like, you know, Middlecoff, he was the starter last year. Is this his job? It's like, well, you know, every job is the competition, every position. And we're like, yeah, Middlecoff was the starter last year. There's not competition at every position. What are you talking about? This is the opposite of that. There's not any competition at this position, right? Like, because Steve played out the extreme, which was, what if Garoppolo's great? What if they win the Super Bowl? What now? In that extreme, as we've talked about before, I think Jed York said it a couple of months ago. In that extreme, okay, maybe Jimmy Garoppolo stays the starting quarterback, but maybe not. But it's not. Steve's ultimate point here is this is not all these other things you hear about every other position all the time in all of sports, which is it's about competition. The best guy plays. Now, maybe Trey Lance is the best guy for some of the packages. Maybe Trey Lance is going to be better than Jimmy soon. Some people think he's better now, but it's not. That part of the equation is taken out of this. There will come a point, even if Jimmy is better than Trey Lance, that Trey Lance plays over him.
Yeah,
and,
I mean,
and if he's better than Trey Lance still at that point, then the Niners have a different problem.
Right. I mean, they're likely to just rig it next year, just get rid of Jimmy and give it to Trey. I think the problem, and I think you hear a lot of players, non-quarterbacks say it's just easy to pick a guy. Think of the team they're playing this year. Think of what that situation, and it was way different, right? Like once they made this trade, this guy's going to play. whether it's week 1, whether it's week 8, whether it's week 1, 2022. But it was 100% clear to everyone in the NFL, every fan in the league, every human being, what was going to be the outcome. But sometimes it's not, right? When you took Jalen Hurts second round over and you had Carson Wentz, and think how weird that got immediately. It is just a conversation given the power of the position. Did it overtake? Like, we'll get into the Niners injuries. They got a game they're playing. It's just constantly the number. Aiyuk, what the fuck's going on there? It's just the number one story, always. Because the quarterback, by far, is the most important guy. We talk about it with our gambling stuff. We're like, one of these weeks, a line is going to go from, if a guy tests positive or he's, contract tracing, it's like so-and-so is going to miss the game. A line could go from like -7 to -14 before you even blink. And that would not happen with a receiver, with a tackle, with a corner. And that could be Trent Williams. That could be Jalen Ramsey. The line might move like half a point. But the moment it happens to like a top 15 quarterback, that line, that first it's going to get pulled off the board, and then it's going to come back, and the number's going to look completely different. And Coward has been saying this since I've been listening to him. It's the only position that moves the needle in Vegas. And as a fan, we know now it's really the only position that it's not the only position that matters because you have to be good at other positions, but it is the number one position that dictates the success and failure of your team. And that so much is on that guy to like, it's hard for, I feel for Jimmy in the sense of like, he's got to be the good guy, but he's got to be a good teammate to Trey, but he's got to be the leader of the team. And then you're going into Philly, like Jimmy's like, well, I can't just kind of half-ass it, just knowing that like I got to play well too, or I'll get benched or we'll lose. I mean,
not just I'll get benched. They are looking for a reason in some ways.
Yeah, but then who knows? Maybe he was bad. Then I'd have to stay ready because I might go back in. It's an awkward situation.
Nobody, when a receiver scores a touchdown, the camera doesn't immediately cut to the other receiver on the team. Like, let's see if he high fives him, right? Let's see if he hugs him.
I thought that last Thursday when Mike Evans had like one catch and all the other guys are going nuts and Antonio Brown and then Gronk. I was like, I wonder if Mike Evans, he's got to go hug. Godwin caught a touchdown and he was there, but he said, I think like I got 2 catches. All these guys got like 15 and 3 touchdowns. Fuck, I want some love.
But I will say, I think there's a difference. Like, I think when they show Mike Evans, that's the director of the broadcast saying, look, Mike Evans hasn't even done anything and they're scoring. I think when they do it with quarterbacks, it's like, let's see. Let's see. Is he going to smile when he? Because part of it's like you can't just high five. You got to smile. You can't just pat him on the shoulder. You got to like really look excited because a touchdown. Everyone's excited when you score a touchdown.
I think there's a lot of
that on the Mike Evans.
Well, I mean, he was good, but I was thinking in the back of my head, like, is deep down he kind of mad? Like, bro.
Well, I would love if somebody else on the Cowboys runs in a touchdown this week and then they cut to Zeke.
Well, the other guy might be faster, so yeah. I mean, who knows? Jimmy was good, but it was the Lions. I do think he deserves credit for now he's being paid $25 million. So it's just, but the money's the money. As a human being, like it's not an enviable, I think part of what Steve Young's saying, like this shit's fucking hard, and it can create a problem even for good teams. I mean, he was winning Super Bowls, but they were so great and the league was way different. And he had Walsh and a stacked team. But the way he describes it in that book is like, you're like, God damn, there's a lot of pressure on these 2 guys kind of going back and forth. But they were buddies and they had spent time together. I guess that relationship lasted a while, right? Just because they played on the same team for 5 years. This relationship is basically the equivalent in the NFL of like a 1-year fling, right? This is not there. It's not like Jimmy and Trey are going to play together for 5 years. To me, it would be a huge upset if Jimmy Garoppolo's on the team next year, right?
Yeah. It's the good part about it is that he plays. Is that he just his individual success is going. He's in a good spot to succeed. You and I talked about that a lot.
And it's good for the Niners, talent. Right? If he plays well,
what's
Washington
good for him
needs a quarterback.
What's good for the gander, John, is good for the goose, whatever that means. But it applies here. What's good for Jimmy is good for the 49ers and vice versa. So this is where, look, winning is critical for winning. That's why winning matters, because you win. If you lose, you don't go to the playoffs. You lose money. You're not as interesting. If you win, you have a chance to win a championship, blah, blah, blah. People get extended. You lose, people get fired. But this is also why winning is important, because this is the kind of thing that when you're winning, it's less of a talking point. If you're losing, then the question starts to happen. Are you losing because of this? Is this actually getting in your way? Are you on? I heard you mentioned the Russillo Trent Dilfer conversation the other day. One thing Dilfer said was, he said, Jalen Hurts is a great football player and a good quarterback, but he's a great guy. And the longer Jalen Hurts is your starting quarterback, the harder it will be for you to replace him, because the more he can exert his moral authority over the locker room. I think I think he said it that way.
And he said he'd known him since he was like 16, right?
He's known him for a long time. And basically what he's saying is, the longer he's your quarterback, the more of a leader he becomes, and the harder, the more ingrained in the fabric of your team he is. So you start losing games if you're the Niners. Now you start going like, well, the quarterback is supposed to be the leader of the whole thing. That's why when a quarterback is named a captain, nobody's like, oh yeah, that means everything. It's like, yeah, it's when a quarterback's not a captain that you kind of gets your attention, especially a second-year guy like Tua. And so that's where winning, it becomes what happens if they're winning enough to be in the playoff race, but not winning enough that it's comfortable. And the question then becomes like, is this thing creating a distraction for them? There's just a lot of extra noise that you don't want to have to deal with, and you don't deal with it really when you're winning.
I also had the thought listening to Dilfer, like, there's perks to being a high school coach. He hosts a podcast. He has a weekly show with Russillo where he talks about all the games that he obviously kind of watches on Sunday. It's like, he's got a lot of free time for being a high school coach.
I love he's like, I turned to my wife and I said, the Chiefs are winning this one. She's like, you always say crazy things. And I'm like, just watch. And then I get back to my huddle.
Did we mention that the kid that he got in the screaming match was? I know someone had sent us that it was Phil Dawson's son.
We did not mention it. No,
Bo Dawson.
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did either.
My question, I was thinking about listening to that podcast, was like, did him and Phil have a talk, or is Phil like, whatever?
Well, he had said, I'd heard him, I think he'd been on with Russillo like 2 or 3 weeks back. Or no, he was on with McAfee right after the incident. And he said that him and Phil, they must have played together a long time ago in like Cleveland. He's like, he's been one of my close friends for 20 years. Like, I think he's like me and you, or, I think he's really close with Phil. And I would imagine Bo is.
So they're cool.
Yeah. I would guess Bo's a college prospect. Wouldn't shock me.
John Christopher Rodriguez on YouTube says, more starters dropping like flies for the 49ers. WTF. I mean, why are we surprised?
Really quick, that's a saying that drop like flies. Have you ever tried to kill a fly? They're hard to drop.
That's why you just lock dropping them inside, like ants, and you just close all the doors, and eventually they drop. I don't know. That's a good question. I wonder why. Is there I've never seen a fly die.
Well, I've seen them. Yeah, I've seen them get hit, but a lot of times when you're hitting them, you got to swing about 55 million times before you even get them.
I want to see a fly you never see an engine blow out. Like, oh, we lost another one.
I know.
You never see that.
Well, that's the opposite with the Niners. Like, they do drop.
Fly.
They do drop at
every
rapid
week.
Rates.
I mean,
they lost 3. They lost 3 starters week 1. There's an element we've been talking over and over. You can change your trainers. You can train your doctors. It's still football. You're going to lose some guys. I think we talked about this on or off the air. It feels like we've never seen the cart come out. Like in week 1, I swear to God, I saw the cart come out.
A lot of, and you mentioned this, a lot of teams right now.
25 times. It happened. It came out 3 times in the Raven game. But 3 starters week 1. 3 starters. Like it's one thing to lose a couple players, right, to ankle injuries or whatever. 2 of them to ACL injuries, and then, I mean, Greenlaw had surgery on an area that, like, I'm sorry.
Which area?
Groin.
Oh.
So if you break a hand or even like break a foot, at least it just is what it is. You broke it. To me, when the hamstring stuff, surgery in that area, shoulder stuff, like I don't just, he'll come back, he'll be fine. He's a run and hit linebacker, right? He's not some big burly slow just tackler where it's like he doesn't need to be moving fast. Like when I watched Dre Greenlaw, he had a pick 6 in that. Like he's to me, one of the things he hangs his hat on is athleticism. So now, where does your athleticism come from? Your fucking legs. What connects your legs to your body? Like that thing. That's
fucking Dr. Middlecoff right there.
But do you agree? Like that's not.
Yeah.
I think people are just casually like 4 to 6 or 6 to 8. Like I don't know. That could. When I was at Fresno State, and guys would have the hernia or anything in that area, like you might just disappear for 6 months.
Right.
I would look at it. he's different than Raheem. Like Raheem has been hurt a lot. This guy has been pretty reliable for them for a couple years. Very enjoyable, just solid member of a good defense. This is a pretty big injury. And clearly they acted like after the game, it's just, we'll see. It went from a we'll see to like, yeah, he's got cut up on 2 days ago.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is where, and you mentioned this to me before we started recording, this was or is a position of depth for them. So we'll see if it still is, right?
Part of having Fred Warner or a Ray Lewis or a Bobby Wagner, like one guy in that unit, unlike the defensive line, if you just have Khalil Mack and no one else, or Nick Bosa and no one else, it's hard to just like, you can still make an impact, but you just need a little help. Like if I put Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman with 2 random linebackers, they're still going to dominate. So to me, as long as 54 is in there, even if, the domino effect of moving, I can never say his name, 51 to 57 spot, and then the 3-name guy.
Shire.
Yeah. I mean, they got some moving parts. As long as Fred Warner's there, I do think you feel like that guy could make 20 tackles a game. Yeah. And he literally might have to. Now he makes a lot of money to do that.
Like I said last week, this week after the Lions game, it's a little early to be talking about like how many snaps everybody was playing on defense, because they played a lot of snaps on defense. But
what'd you say? 85?
Yeah, 80, 83, 85, something like that.
And you know what? Isn't that a lot for college, let alone the NFL?
It's a ton.
I mean, 85
ton
snaps?
Of plays. Now, the one thing, Shire got hurt in that game and came back, and is actually pretty damn good. Like, he's a really good player.
Do you have the box score up?
No, but I can get it.
I was just wondering how many tackles Fred Warner had in that game. Like, I mean, do you remember Willis and Bowman, like in their prime? Both of them would be like, one guy had 19, the other guy had 17. They account. So if there was 50 plays in the game, they accounted for 75% of the stops.
Not to mention, they remember the Patriots game. I mean, this happened a lot because they played special teams where they each played, like, one of them played 94 of 95 snaps and the other one played 95 of 95.
I do.
Something like that. I think wasn't that road game? Wasn't that the rainy comeback?
Yeah, it was
game?
The one in the weird weather
in New England. Stats on that game.
I got it.
Okay, what you got? 11.
I would imagine. Yeah, I mean, leading tackler.
Yeah,
but that 11 might have to turn into 14, 15 because Greenlaw had 6. I mean, Greenlaw did have a pick 6 in that game, right? I mean,
he's made big plays. That's you right. Like, he on a defense that you go, okay, who are the playmakers? Off the you got the playmakers. The first couple are pretty easy to find. Bosa, Fred Warner. Who are the rest of them?
Well, when you're watching Sunday football, if you're listening to this, think of the most of the defensive playmakers on Sunday now. Like back in the day, I ran into Romanowski a couple of days ago at the gym. Now, he wasn't athletic. He even hypes up he was actually more made for now than he was even back then because he was a speed cover guy, and he just got bigger because that's what it demanded. But a lot of linebackers and just a lot of guys historically on defense, Gilbert Brent, you just had big guys. You didn't have to run as fast. Now the game is spread. It's running. Most playmakers on defense now are big-time athletes. Now, relative to the NFL, you know what I mean? Like more athletic than maybe they were 20 years ago, just in terms of speed. Like when I watch Greenlaw, is that guy a 4.5 guy? Because he just fucking flies around. So you just lose a speed demon. Like I thought all 3 linebackers, obviously Fred's play speed's elite. That's part of back to the Bowman and Willis. They were elite players, but part of what made them so elite is it felt like when they ran, like there weren't many people on the field that were running faster, right? So it's like, I'm chasing you and I'm going to catch you, or we're both running to the corner because you're going to try to get around an outside run, and I'm going to beat you there, and then I'm going to fucking destroy you. And I'm not saying Greenlaw is quite that, but the more and more speed you have on the field, like that's the Niners' one problem at corner, losing Verrett. Like Verrett can run. So now it's like, Mosley's not a speed guy. If Norman has to play, he's not a speed guy. You just start, Dre Kirkpatrick, who they signed, like the more and more of these guys are just kind of these bigger, longer, you just lose speed on your team.
Yeah. And that is, unlike linebacker, not a position of depth. Cornerback. Yeah. That one still is more, I mean, that one, Verrett gets hurt. I hate to say this, and I said this the other day, and I hate to say this too. Like, I'm just holding my breath on Nick Bosa. It's one thing when a bunch of guys get hurt one year and a bunch of different guys get hurt the next year. Verrett didn't get hurt, ironically, last year, right? When guys who have injury history get hurt, I can't view that as just bad luck. It's bad luck for them, for Jason Verrett, and it sucks. But injury history is part of what you evaluate when you're drafting and when you're signing free agents. How much are you willing to invest in a guy? And I get why he believed in himself and did a 1-year deal. And, is Javon Kinlaw ever going to be healthy for extended periods of time? At this point, what would you bet? I'm not saying I know one way or the other, but at this point, I'd have to bet no. That's what I have to bet based off the information that we have right now.
I text with someone who's relatively close to the team yesterday. Doesn't, not like a scout or coach or anything, and just brought up, and I think we've used this word before, and it's out there, but, degenerate knee. Anytime you say that, like it's just a ticking time bomb, or it just doesn't get any better. Like that was part of the deal with Gurley. That was part of like this quote unquote management. Now, unlike speed guys, it happens sometimes with running backs coming out of the draft. Remember Jay Ajayi, the dude from Boise State? He was going to go like top like 40 picks, right? He would have been like one of those first picks in the second round, but then he had a knee that was like, he's a one contract guy. He ended up going in the 4th round. Remember, he was a good player, but his career just kind of ended at like 27. His knees just went. And I remember talking to guys in Philly, they traded for him and his knee was just kind of shot, but they would just manage him, get him the game. If that is truly the case with this guy, that's a disastrous pick. There's no way around it. That's a disastrous decision. Disastrous.
Disaster.
Yeah. Disastrous.
It's one thing,
especially now moving forward, where you're just like, when's the next time they're going to sniff picking a guy at 14? They don't even have fucking picks.
No, John. And the other thing that happens when a player is sometimes available and sometimes not available is you don't move on. So you're constantly in this limbo of like, 2022, if we can just get him fully healthy and then, back to his old self, he's going to be plug in the middle. It's like, again, we've had 1 week of this season, but
I've said over and over, I think the worst type players, I'd rather just have you play a lot and not be good. Like Solomon Thomas or Cleveland Farrell. Just like, this guy's available every week for 3 years. He's just not good enough. He's got to be a backup. We're going to eventually move on. Then like, you go out to practice. Look at Jalen Hurts standing next to these other guys. He is by far our best. Look at Kinlaw. Stand Kinlaw next to Bosa. You tell me who you take walking off the bus. Well, yeah. I mean, he looks incredible. You and I have been around the NFL, going to these practices, going to these games for a decade plus now, seeing everything from Pro Bowlers to scrubs. He looks like what it's supposed to look like. But when he's an injured guy like he is, clearly, and just someone that's going to battle this knee issue, I would rather just have him just not be good enough than what he's going to hold them hostage a little bit. In fairness, they're hostage the moment they pick them. They can't really just they're just in bed with them now for a minimum 4 years. But given the importance of the pick, the moment they do this Trey Lance deal, that one's. And then you just factor in the short-term ramifications. I was texting with Greg Papa. I'm like, one issue you have with the wide 9 and these defense, and you and I talked about this, I think, last week, or maybe right after the game. Like,
yeah,
even if you're going upfield, if you just have a Fletcher Cox body type or a Kinlaw, even if his job is not like hold the double team while all the other guys hunt, even if he's getting upfield too, he's just, taking up more space. The other guys, their rotation of the little guys, they all kind of look the same body types, right? 6'1", 6'2", 3 bills and fast, which is cool. But once they start playing, I was actually thinking about this the other day. They might just get a little lucky that most teams, we'll see even Sean McVay, definitely the Seattle teams in their division kind of want to throw it.
Right.
If this was like, I don't think you could do what they were doing in 1998 because these teams will be like, we'll run it 45 times on you. But it's like Sean McVay's like,
the problem is
I want to throw it to Stafford.
But McVay is happy to.
He will. Too. But Pete, their best players are wide receivers, and definitely Cliff, they're going to throw.
Yeah. You think Chris Carson can run through some of those holes though?
Yeah, I mean they would. I mean, he hired McVay guys, but just watching them against the Colts, like, and I don't blame them. It's like DK and Tyler. Russell wants to throw bombs. Yeah. I was watching some of Pete's. It just got tweeted into my timeline like a 2-minute clip.
The let Russ cook thing?
Yeah. He's like, I didn't mean to say that. You guys are just going to let this go.
He was like legitimately mad that he had said, let Russ and Shane cook.
He said that Russ was really cooking. And don't you think it was a little Freudian slip? Like, I don't think he meant it like let Russ cook. I just meant
No,
Russ
he
was
did
hot.
not.
We were just riding him.
Yep, absolutely.
You see Pete turned 70 yesterday?
I only knew that because I watched that game. I accidentally clicked the full version of that game instead of the 30-second version. And Kevin Harlan is like, no, not Kevin Harlan.
Burkhart.
Kenny Albert is doing the coach intros. And he's like, Frank Reich, 4th year. Pete Carroll turns 70 on Wednesday. I was like, damn.
Well, I saw Schrager or a Sando or a guy like that tweeted like, this seems crazy when you say it out loud, and then you factor in Saban will turn 70 in October. Belichick turns 70, I think, either early 2022, and same with Arians. You're like,
Arians?
Yeah, Arians is older than you think.
Yes, he is.
That Temple photo when he was coaching, like he was like 40 in 1983.
So all the coaches are either 70 or 39. Then that's what's happening right now. Where are the 59-year-old coaches?
But Saban ain't going anywhere, right?
I know.
Why would he? Especially when he lands Cooper Manning's kid and promises him like, I won't retire till you're done.
Arch.
Isn't that the move for Saban?
Arch. Yeah, I like that. That'd be great. It would only, why would you, if you bring him in and he's good, why would you walk away after that? After you've had like 3 years of just the Mannings at every game. Peyton on Monday Night Football with Al Michaels on ABC, and then also, Saturday nights at the Alabama game.
Guy, if Saban tells him that, I will not leave till you go. Because I would understand Arch, like, I'm not going to come here for 1 year, then you retire. But if you stay the whole time, I'll come to you because I know I'll be the number. Where else would he go? Like, to me, that is by far and away, I guess Lincoln Riley, but they're SEC family. But now Lincoln Riley's in the SEC by the time Arch gets there.
Yeah.
That to me would be the only thing even in the conversation. I guess Clemson, too, would have a...
Jack Del Rio's USC might be back by then.
That's true. I mean, he's already wearing the colors.
Speaking of those colors, in the YouTube chat, where did this go? Dan asked, how about trading Jimmy Garoppolo to Washington football team for a big-time starter due to all these injuries? Washington football team does have like 9 first-rounders on its defense, doesn't it?
Maybe I think the move is Jimmy has a good season. Maybe you make a wild card. Maybe you lose in the wild card round. But then his value is you can just recoup.
Okay,
and when I say recoup, maybe it's like a second and a third. I'm not expecting first. Okay. But what if he throws 30 touchdowns, 10 picks, and he's just good?
Yep.
He has value. Like, you don't think he'd play for the football team?
Absolutely. I think it'd be a great spot for him.
The football team?
Yeah. Now, Fitz isn't out for the year. We'll see. We're recording this before Taylor Heineke on Thursday night.
Well, what about the other team they're playing? Where's that coach? Where's that coach? Is a Belichick guy?
Yeah. He's going to need a quarterback if Daniel Jones fumbles 28 more times this year.
I think Jimmy is a 100% lock start as long as he's healthy in 2022, right?
Yes.
Lock.
Yes.
He's clearly already better than 15 guys, right? Or 12.
Well, so I watch college football every Saturday, just like you do, and just like a lot of people do. And you're like, I don't know about this quarterback. It's like, yeah, like 6 of these guys have a chance to be NFL stars. Well, that's not true because it's hard to actually know which 6, but that number could be high. But there's not like 25 quarterbacks every year coming in the league. There's a couple. And the guys that are in the league half of them are interchangeable.
Yeah. My take on just early college football, I don't know if it's like a great quarterback crop right now in the group. Like, it doesn't feel like there's a Sam Darnold, a Josh Allen, and a Baker Mayfield, and a Lamar. Like, I'm not Rick Spielman here or anything, but I've watched a decent amount the first 2 weeks. Hot take, I'd be shocked if the number 1 overall pick's a quarterback from what I've seen. And even just the buzz coming into the season. Were there really that many quarterbacks that were viewed as
I
like
think
top
people
5
were
guys
reaching,
in the class?
like, Sam Howell. Wait till you see him. Okay. I think Slovis, yeah. By the way, did you see the video of the guy yesterday at the Giants game? The photo, I guess, that went viral?
No.
His photos got him. You can get a message for somebody and put it on the video board.
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
Max's divorce party.
I did see that. Well, do you think the guy was at the game?
Yeah, absolutely, he was at the game with his buddies, and they
Oh,
did the
that. Oh,
message
yeah. Okay.
like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
That. Okay. That's. How much do you think that costs?
I don't know, $100 maybe. Probably goes to the I think it's a donation.
That's pretty cool.
$50. I don't know.
That's pretty funny.
But I've always felt like you're at the game when that thing's up there, and you're constantly like, no, 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 don't go to the bathroom yet. But you don't want to tell somebody their message is coming up.
Yeah.
John, let's tell the people about DraftKings. DraftKings, where right now you can check as we're talking. We've got a game going up. It is in the link or in the description of this video or this podcast, whichever way you're listening. And you can join the Haberman and Middlecoff League. Is there a Ryder Cup one? Anyway, sign up with Code HAM. Millions of prizes, millions of dollars of prizes up for grabs at DraftKings. You don't have to be in our league. You can play in a smaller game. We've got a 200-person game, $10 a person. And we'll see if I can finish better than 194th this week.
Is that where you finished?
Something like, 194th and 192nd.
If you're watching this right now on YouTube, we have 185 at it. We have 15 spots left. Well, these games are filling up quick, guy. I mean, we're doing 200 as big as we can get. It's filling up. Download the DraftKings app. Use the promo code HAM when you sign up. A minimum $5 requirement once you sign up, and then get in our game. We always link it. We link it in the podcast. We link it in the YouTube. I can't recommend enough. I don't know how you guys that play year-long fantasy, it's got to be pretty boring once your best players get hurt.
Imagine if you had Dre Greenlaw.
I know.
No, sorry,
this you can just operate like Billy Bean. You're like, I'll take another guy. I already kind of made a lineup completely different than last week. Probably won't work, but at least I feel good about my squad. I feel good about my squad guy most weeks going in on DraftKings.
I might give you a few. We're going to go through every NFL game later. I might have a few little recommendations.
Okay.
We'll see. Sign up, play DraftKings. When you get in our league, join the league, because when you join the league, then you get the invite. Bam! Every time a new game gets created.
You did win like $750 once when Colin Markow drove the green.
Yeah, I mean, it's time. We can't live in the past. Although every time I enter a game, I am living in the past because I haven't ever taken money out of DraftKings, and I've got $600 in there every game. It'd be nice to add some money though.
Now, if there were fans, would Morikawa drove the green and Haberman have won all that money? I don't know. But it happened.
I don't know either. But I know this: when you go to Harding Park, it looks like a lot more difficult shot than it looks on TV because that thing moves left to right. It's not a straight shot at the green.
Well, I actually, when I played it with Kawakami over, I don't even know when, 3 or 4 months ago, I almost hit it into the water the other way. I was like, I think I can do this.
I'm going to cut this.
So it really, whether there were fans or not, it's one of the more remarkable shots ever.
It really is. All right, John. Also, this podcast is brought to you by a phenomenal product, wineaccess.com/ham, with a deal unheard of in the podcast advertising streets. Right now, you get $50 over your first order of $150 or more. You get $50 off some of the best wines in the world at wineaccess.com/ham.
Well, guy, think about it. 33%. 33%. We've given good deals over the years. I think a lot of them are in the, 15 to 20. This is 33%. You make an order of over $150, you get $50 off. You and I both had a delivery. We've had several deliveries. I can't recommend enough. I've got them for several other people. Here's the thing. The wine, to make it on Wine Access, you got to be elite because only one of 18 wines they try ever make it. And then once you do, they give you a pairing sheet. So it's like tonight, I was thinking about making a steak for the game. I was like, I look at the sheet and I know what is it?
The Two Angels Petite Syrah.
Yeah, I'm going to open it tonight.
That's the one because it tells you, like, okay, the Phoenix Cabernet. We got the Phoenix Cabernet, the Phoenix Cab, and that one was, for maybe a little bit of a fancier dinner. But it said on it for a steak, the Two Angels Petite Syrah. Go with that. And that one, that's a $45 bottle. So like if you're going to go right now to wineaccess.com/ham, there's a ton of good options. For me as a wine novice, the first few times I went, it was a little overwhelming. I'm like, how do I even filter this? What do I want? And so there's a little direction. Now, if you know what you want, then you'll know what you're looking at. It's great stuff. But I would say start there. They got bottles, they got $20 bottles. They got $200 bottles. So whatever it is you want, go get it. You can also do some filtering of your own if you're looking for something specific, or you can just look around and it'll give you some good pointers if you kind of know maybe you know a little bit, but something for everybody. And I know this $50 off anything of $150 is something for everybody.
Fantastic. Wineaccess.com/ham. Go use it right now, or tell your friends, or tell your sister, or tell your mom, or tell your parents. Do it.
Wineaccess.com/ham. I ranked this week's 49er game against the Eagles. Somebody asked earlier, are we going to talk about Raiders Steelers? You're damn right we are. I ranked in my head the most important 3 things for the Niners this week against the Eagles. You tell me if you agree with this ranking. 1, win. 2, don't get any more injuries. 3, we need some answers on what's up with Brandon Aiyuk. You pointed this out to me. I had not seen this previously, the video that Matt Barrows posted of the 49ers when they're allowed 15 minutes. This is the receiver drills. For those of you listening to it, it's just 2 receivers go, and then what happens next caught your eye. Then Brandon Aiyuk goes solo. Odd number of receivers, John. Could just be as simple as that.
Every practice we went to in training camp, when the hierarchy felt well established, it was like, yeah, the Niners have 2 sweet wide receivers and this older guy named Sanu. And their 2 sweet wide receivers were Debo and Aiyuk, as it should be, right? One guy was drafted in the 2nd round. The other guy was traded up. They drafted in the 1st round. You're like, yeah, these are 2 of their better players on the team. And then all camp, you and I are talking like, God, how good can this guy be? He's just making play after play, really more than Debo. Now, he's pops a little more, I would say, in a practice setting than Debo just because his speed. He's so fast. He's just so smooth. It's crazy because Debo translates immediately to games. But it's like all those practices, I don't feel like Debo really jumps out, which isn't, who cares? Like, you just want a guy to play well in the games. And so it's like all that stuff we saw in training camp. Now, I see a video like that. I go, I've been to enough practices where I saw him at the front of the line. I'm not trying to overreact.
That drill we've watched many times, and usually
it was 11 and 19 were the first 2 guys. I bet if you go to most places, like if I just went to Eagles practice, who do you think their first 2 guys are in that drill? I hope it's Devonta Smith and Jalen Reagor. If I go to Titans practice and Vrabel's not chewing out Julio, it's Julio and AJ. If we went to Seattle practice, who do you think it would be? It'd be Lockett and DK. Like, it's just a natural progression of what your top receivers do. They're at the front of the line. That to me is a little glaring. I don't think it's really disputable. That's not nothing. I don't know if it's much, but it's not nothing. And clearly there's enough going on where it's like, I just think you have to question that whatever situation they're in, it's not a good situation. And it's something that I understand. I'm all for, coaches being hard on young players and just establishing the culture. Like, this is our standard. And I think the Niners have been lucky. They've had guys who are just eat, breathe, and sleep football. I'd say they're I'd say 3 best players beside like Trent, who they acquired in a trade. Fred Warner, George Kittle, and Nick Bosa. And Nick Bosa, when he's not being held back because he's coming back from an injury, you go to practice, like, he just all over the place. George Kittle, since I've been around football, including Fresno State, up to this day, is one of the hardest practicers I've ever seen. All your practices. Have you ever seen a guy just like practice as hard as Kittle does? Just dive in. I mean, against 3rd string, he doesn't care. Like, it's whatever the drill, you're just like, God damn. Same with Fred. Like, Fred's presence reminds me of Bowman and Willis. Khalil when he was with the Raiders. And I just do wonder, like, that's their standard. And that was just like, these are our best players. It's like, we think you're a talented player. We drafted you in the 1st round, but for whatever reason, it doesn't feel like they believe that he is equaling that. Right?
I can't show you this video. Sorry, I wasn't looking at you during that. I wasn't ignoring you. I was looking for video because the receivers always would warm up right by us when we go to practice. And so I don't have enough disk space to export this video to my computer and show it to you right now without doing some maneuvering. So I'll just hold it up to the screen. So you can't really tell.
No, I can see it. I can see it.
That's how you can Debo going first.
So the same drill at a practice we went to a month ago was completely. What happened? Is it just as simple as he hasn't been as locked in? Is it as, could we take him at face value? He's been injured. Like, I don't know, man.
Well, imagine for a second that this situation was happening in Seattle and you just happened to be kind of following it. And it was with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. And DK Metcalf played and had a great game week 1. and Tyler Lockett had like a hamstring and he missed some practice, but he did play in the game. He had one punt return, and then that was it. And you didn't really follow the situation, right? So you said, well, what's up? Did he get hurt on the punt return? Did he re-aggravate an injury? And someone said, no, it wasn't that. You'd go, well, what the hell's going on then? If there was some hint of disciplinary action on Tyler Lockett from the outside, if you weren't really following this situation, you'd go, something's up with Seattle. That's really weird. Like, that's one of their best players. I know playing them at DK's great, but the combination of the two of them is bizarre. Yeah, I mean, not bizarre. Is
dynamic,
scary, dynamic, whatever. B word if you want, but you'd just think it was kind of weird. If you weren't following it at all, you'd be like, that's kind of weird. Like, what? Something's up. And we follow this closely, and it's clear. So this is part of what I'm saying is this week is about moving on from this. They don't have time after what we saw week 1 and after already some injuries. They don't have time for one of their best players to be unavailable, but just in a weird space. You need that fixed as soon as possible.
Listen, Kyle knows these guys better than we do, better than any fan does, right? He's been around them. He loved Brandon Aiyuk, right? The two receivers, it was pretty clear once they both came around. It was like, that's what he wanted. Like, that was his guy. That's who he liked. Remember, we talked about it when he was drafted and the information came out. It was like CD might have been number 1, but I think Brandon Aiyuk was a lot higher to like 2 or 3 than he was 7 or 8 on the list of that great wide receiver draft, remember? Mm-hmm. And Kyle loved him. And John Lynch said that Herm, they were so locked in on that guy. So listen, they have a good feel for his personality. In my experience, and I think anyone's experience following skill guys, they can be a little bit more sensitive than other positions, right? You can, like McGlinchey, when he's arguing with Twitter, ultimately, if he's sensitive on Twitter or whatever, he's getting yelled at nonstop by the O-line coach. That's just the nature of the position. It's contentious. It's the same with Kinlaw. Like, they're getting in his shit. Because that's the nature of the trenches, right? You just like, part of the deal, dog. Just put in a chew and sit there in the meeting and take it.
Yeah,
take
emotional
it like a man.
Motivation is part of that position.
Where receiver, it's kind of hit or miss. And you see that,
it's artists.
But when I see that, I see a guy like kind of down in the dumps. Because I think he went back there. I don't think Welker's like, you're at the back, dog. Like,
well, either way, it's trouble. Coach Timo on YouTube says, I think Kyle is right. Sherfield has been balling. You got to play the dude. We're not running as many 3 receiver sets yet. I'm sure we'll see more of Aiyuk, but you got to tip your hat to Sherfield. We do tip our hat to Sherfield. We watched him in practice. He looked fantastic. He got a touchdown in the game. I mean,
Guy'd be the greatest $100,000 signing in the history of $100,000 signings. I mean,
but he deserves all the credit. But I know this. I know you need Brandon Aiyuk. And here's the other thing. Like the situation you just described, CD Lamb. So part of
they could have had
part of the DeForest Buckner thing is like you gave up Buckner, but you get Kinlaw and Aiyuk out of it, and so maybe could you have kept Buckner and just drafted CeeDee Lamb then? Because you could have drafted CeeDee Lamb. You passed on when they drafted Kinlaw, they passed on CeeDee Lamb.
No, because the way they got the pick was get rid of Buckner for the pick, right?
The way they got that pick, yeah. You're right. That's true. Could you have moved up somehow? Okay, you're right. You did pass on CeeDee Lamb.
But okay, once you get rid of Buckner,
and taking a defensive lineman.
Yeah, we're just taking another player at some other position. 100, you could have. I mean, we know that. But I'm not giving up in Brandon Aiyuk's talent. Now, I get a little nervous with these things that happen, and sometimes they happen. I'd say they happen pretty consistently around the league with young wide receivers. We saw it with Ruggs last year. Something was just off. Sometimes just things go off, and sometimes coaches,
human beings,
I don't blame them. They're just get locked in on the season. Like, I don't have time to hold. Like, I do think if you're going to hold anyone's hand, it's going to be a guy you draft in the first round, a wide receiver that is proven like he's a pretty good player. I get not like Dante Pettis. Like, I don't even think this guy can play. No problem. Move on. But this is not one of those situations. Kinlaw might turn out to be like, yeah, we can't even depend on him. I don't think Aiyuk is necessarily that.
No, I don't think so either. I just want to see, if I'm them, that thing put to bed, bigger fish to fry. Because have you checked the schedule for the upcoming weeks? the Packers are going to look like a different team when you see them in a week because they're about to blow the doors off the line.
Short week though, Monday night. I'm
What do
saying
you
the
mean?
Niners are going to get them off a short week, but
Yeah, I'm just saying
after they win 50-7,
that game is going to feel big.
they're going to destroy the Lions, don't you think?
Yes, that could have been our lock of the week. I don't know
number
what,
was
but
a
the
little
line
high.
was it 12.5, 14?
Yeah,
it was big.
it was a little. Lions sneaky could come back.
Then
They don't give up.
Off memory here, is it Rams Seahawks or Seahawks Rams or Cardinals? Sorry,
It's Packers, Seattle, Arizona,
yeah,
Indy, Arizona. So it just gets really, I mean, a lot of really just good teams. And who knows? We've been talking about it. We're going to see it because I've even texted with some people, not even in the Eagles organization, to just cover. I still think they think it's kind of a wait and see approach. Like the Eagles might be better than you thought, but they might be 7-10, not a 4-win team, right? And be like a year away from competing for the playoffs. We'll find out. Or the Eagles are just, they're going to compete for the NFC East. If I told you right now, we'll look back on the season and be like the Eagles and the Cowboys came down to the wire for the NFC East, you go, well, this game's probably going to be really hard.
Yeah.
And it might be just in general.
I do think you and I talked a lot about the Eagles the other day on the last podcast. We don't need to do it as, a big dive into them. But this is a little bit of a litmus test, given we talked about the schedule against Jalen Hurts for D'Amico Ryan's defense. This is a light version of playing a quarterback who can do some of the thing, right? This isn't playing Kyler. This isn't playing Russell Wilson. But it is a litmus test for how this defense historically has not been great. It's a challenge for every defense when a quarterback can stress you with his legs. But how do they look against Jalen Hurts? Do they look a way that makes us go, God, if that's how they looked against Hurts, how are they going to look against Russell Wilson or Kyler in a couple of weeks? Again, different guys. These are all different guys. Because Jalen Hurts looked good against the Falcons. Now, the Falcons are bad, but he looked good. So do we come out of the Niner game going, Jalen Hurts looked good again? Or, all right, not a rookie quarterback, second-year quarterback, Niners defense, they kind of showed they're for real. Because there's one of the two is what's going to happen out of this game. Is the Niners defense for real, or is Jalen Hurts going to look good?
Think about Jalen Hurts' storyline for like 3 years. It went from like this guy, they got this young Hawaiian kid. I don't know if he's going to be able to hold him off. Tua takes him. Jalen's transferring. Goes to Oklahoma.
John, just takes him, replaces him at halftime of the national championship game and leads a comeback.
Yeah, incredible. Absolutely incredible. Now he was throwing to this guy named Judy and this other guy named Calvin Ridley, and Devontae and Ruggs were probably on the bench, but he did it. Then the guy transfers like, Lincoln.
Who caught the touchdown? Who caught the touchdown?
I thought Ridley. I thought Ridley caught it, if I remember correctly.
I thought there was a freshman caught a touchdown in that game.
It might have been Devontae or Waddle or one of those guys.
Maybe it was Waddle.
It was all of them and Ridley. So it was a pretty good group. And then he goes to Oklahoma and people are like, Lincoln, you can't get a better quarterback than this. And then he's awesome in Oklahoma. Then the Eagles draft him and be like, everyone said, including myself, a second-round pick on this kid? Then last year, it's like, what are you doing? Carson Wentz is the guy. Then by midseason, like, let's just give this guy a try. Then he gets a try. He's like, oh, he's okay, but is he really going to be the guy? Then off season, it's like, is he really the guy? Should they go get Deshaun Watson? Then Deshaun Watson gets taken out by like 8 million massage therapists, so that doesn't happen. Then Jalen gets a shot, and after week 1, everyone, including me and you and everyone else, like, God, this guy's not bad. Every single time, it's just like he answers the bell. I'm expecting a good game from Jalen Hurts. Me too.
I don't know that we'll see what happens. I'm not saying I've changed my opinion completely, but I did not think we'd get here. It's clear after watching, and we're here. And part of it is he's got weapons. He's got
his football story. His football story is insane. The last like 3 years.
Yeah,
it's nuts.
Remember,
it keeps getting more insane.
Did you mention this? Like, goes to Oklahoma, becomes a team leader in like 6 days, and lifts a bunch of weight.
But then even at Oklahoma, like he was putting up these crazy numbers. They were kicking ass. I don't feel like people thought he was actually that good. They're like, oh, Lincoln, guy's just a genius, makes every quarterback, even like scrubs like this guy. And then when Howie drafts in the second round, they're like, what is Howie doing?
The other part of that pick was like, well, the only reason it makes sense is because Jeffrey Lurie forced it on the team. Like, he made them draft him in the second round, which is never a good reflection. It's like, no. Jimmy Haslam really wanted Johnny Manziel, right? Oh, Jerry Jones really, like, it was viewed as a pick that was only made because somebody who wasn't as in deep with a non-GM. I'm not. Maybe Howie Roseman loved him too. I don't know. But remember, that was part of the like story. It was like, is this the guy that the owner loved?
It's just bizarre. And now, the Niners are going in, he could beat them. And it doesn't even feel that crazy. Like, I'm expecting this guy to be good. I'm expecting the Niners have to play well to win.
I'm expecting them to struggle a little bit against him on defense.
I agree. Who's covering Devonta Smith? God, that guy's smooth for a skinny guy.
He doesn't look
as an SEC scout, because I was, hesitant on him. I just go, how often do guys 166 pounds come in the NFL? And he's like, bro, you're looking at it wrong. This guy was 166 pounds when Nick Saban couldn't wait to give him a scholarship. This guy was 166 pounds when he immediately starts playing over all these other guys. This guy was 166 pounds when he made the SEC his bitch. Like this guy, he's a player. He plays football. Sometimes you nitpick something that ultimately, like, yeah, if it was 1997 and John Lynch could take him out, he could really injure him. It's not allowed anymore, though. So, like, this guy is an incredible football player. A little bit like the way you described, or the way that you said that Trent Dilfer is a great way to describe it. Like, Jalen Hurts is a great football player. He's learning to play quarterback, but he's a fantastic football player. On the field, he never views any other human on the field as a better football player than him. Devonta Smith, same thing. Like, that guy was born to play football. Now, he has I would say a red flag as a weight, but ultimately that weight, like, what does that, it's probably never meant less today. That it would have meant way more to me if, like, John Lynch was roaming, or Steve Atwater, or Dante Whitner, hell, a decade ago. But it's like, who's really fucking?
But even then, I mean, even then, I still think, because this is where you can get caught up in, like you said, we're trying to draft football players, so why don't we watch them play football and make that the number one determining factor of how good of football players they'll be?
Which he was drafted 10th, so it's not, or 11th, so
it's easier to do that though when a guy plays at Alabama, right? It's a little harder when a guy plays at Louisiana Lafayette and go like, all I know is when I watch him play football, he balls. It's like, sometimes that's a part of the puzzle. It's a little harder when the competition was the competition that he had, and he was wide open all the time.
Well, does he go in the first round if he was like an elite player, the same elite player, but at Fresno State or Lafayette? Probably not, right?
Probably not.
I mean, he won the Heisman.
Yeah.
Now, Lamar won the Heisman and won 32nd. It's still different. You can quarterback, but still kind of crazy looking back.
It is.
He
but
32nd.
Anyway, this to me is going to tell me a lot about what I think about them in their division, because I know in their division, 2 of the 3 quarterbacks are really hard to. You got to worry about a lot of stuff with them.
You expect all 3 teams to win this weekend? Because it does feel like one of the 2, Seattle or Rams, feels like they're just going to like. It's
let's
just
hold
one
that
of those.
Let's hold that for our game schedule. That's a very good question, because there are some really good games in the NFC West this week. We got asked the question earlier about Raiders and Steelers. Are we going to talk about it? You're damn right we're talking about it. You're damn right we're talking about it. I mean, it's one thing, an opener. Week 1s are always kind of weird. Ravens, ton of injuries. Monday Night Football, a lot of juice. If the Raiders can pull it off again, because I think you watched them and went, they're still not, they're far from perfect on defense, right? And now like you mentioned earlier, the cart's coming out a lot. They've got injuries too to deal with, multiple injuries to deal with. But if they can beat the Steelers, who beat the Bills last week,
looking at all the teams that potentially go 2-0, I think the only other team, if they went 2-0, that would have an argument for a better 2-0 start would be the Dolphins, just given that they beat the Patriots in New England and then beat the Bills, who were the reigning AFC champs. Like, they started 2-0. They took out 2 teams in their division who I think both teams, the Bills are viewed as a lock and the Patriots are viewed as like a bounce back team. Like, you can't feel much better if you're that franchise. If the Raiders start the season beating the Ravens and beating the Steelers, 2 teams that combined for like Steelers, they win 12 or 13 games last year. The Ravens won 11. I mean, that's a lot of wins between the 2 of them, and they're both viewed as playoff teams. And you beat them both, especially beating Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh off a short week. Now, they did get pretty beat up. Turns out Mariota hurt his quad on the run. Like, he's out. They lost their starting guard. Ndakwe's out, with a hamstring, incognito. It'd be like, okay, we lost a guard, but incognito comes back. We can kind of, mix and match. Incognito looks like still going to be out. I know he didn't practice as of recording this yesterday. I don't know if he practiced today. So it's like they'd be doing this without, some pretty impactful players. Pittsburgh's defense, to me, I don't know, Pittsburgh's defense, are they going to be the best defense in the league? It's hard to, the Bills, it was just a weird game. Maybe they are. If Derek can go on the road and beat an elite, we just know they're going to be one of the better defenses. And Leatherwood, TJ Watt, that's going to be a tough matchup. It'd be an incredible performance by the offense, whether it was like we slowed the game down, we ran the ball with Jacobs, who was also banged up. I mean, the Raiders are pretty banged up right now.
Yeah. Maybe it's the kind of game they can. But Pittsburgh, Ben, how explosive are they really going to be on offense anyway? Najee, I would imagine they'll try to get him going because he did not have a great game against Buffalo.
Didn't really need him.
Didn't need him. But I think if the Raiders are 2-0, given what you said, where would they be? Not that this is, what I'm about to say, it's not like we talk about it every week, but if I said put together your NFL power rankings, because beating the Steelers on the road to me falls in a category of a game where, and you could argue this about the Ravens too, it doesn't really matter all that much how it looks, right? If you beat them on the road and you've beaten now the Ravens and the Steelers, playoff team, playoff franchises. Now, whether or not Pittsburgh's a playoff team this year, we'll see. I wouldn't, be shocked if they had a year like last year, and maybe the Ravens are going to have a season from hell. Who knows? Very early. But if you, where would they'd be? They'd have to be a top. Where would they be power ranking wise? If you had to put power rankings
7 teams,
together?
yeah. They'd be up there.
Part of that obviously depends on what other teams do. It's going to be hard for just.
I think part of it would be if the Steelers or the Packers bounce back, you'd just be like, well, the Packers big picture are better. You could argue it, but my point is we'd be talking. You start 2-0 with those 2 wins. This is one of those. Well, now you're setting yourself up again to have a good start. Are you starting 8-3? And it's like, are you going to crumble down the stretch? Because that's what's happened the last 2 years, where they have been in the position to get a wild card. After Halloween, in November. And then all of a sudden, by the time we get to mid-December, they're not looking good. Their problem really hasn't been starting. They've started pretty well the last couple of years under Gruden. It's can they sustain it? But if you go 2-0 with those 2 wins, you'd be in pretty good shape. The problem, a little bit like the NFC West, I do think the AFC West is just, those games are just hard. You could play well and go 3-3 in the division, right? And then just one thing is going to be fascinating at the end of the year. I was thinking about this. If you were just having a conversation with someone, do you think the extra game makes it harder or easier to get in the playoff? You'd be like, well, you got a little margin for error, right? You got another game. I actually think it's gotten harder because if you're a 10-6 team, right, that means you're probably pretty good. Well, if I just gave you an extra game, more than likely you're going to be an 11-6 team. Right, it's the teams that actually like the Bears last year. They were 8-8, or sometimes 9-7 teams. You're like, I don't think that team's that good. Well, more than likely they would lose that game and be 9-8, right? Or they would lose that game and be 8-9 if they were 8-8. Or I think the teams that have a little more talent, I actually think you're probably more likely you need that extra win. So that swing game, instead of being a 10, it turns into 11. Last year, it took 11 to get in the AFC playoffs. It seems probably inconceivable that it would take 12 to get in, but even 11 is hard to get to, right? There's a big difference now there will be between 10-7 and what would it be? 11-6. 11-6 would feel like a really good record.
Yeah.
Where 10-7, there'll probably be some teams that maybe miss the playoffs at 10-7. You're like, yeah, it feels right. I don't think they were a playoff team, but maybe they started fast and got off to a 3-0 start, so had a little buffer.
Well, but what happens?
Do you agree with that? Do you think that extra game makes it easier or more difficult? I just thought about this on edibles a couple nights ago.
That's a good question because I think in theory, the more games you play, the bad teams should fall further back and create more separation for the medium to medium plus teams.
The Mahomes teams, the Brady Belichick's teams, the more games you give them, the more likely they're going to win.
Isn't it just similar to saying what's harder? Where is it harder to get an upset in a 3-game baseball series or a 7-game series?
Yeah.
The more games you play, the more sample size you get, the more the good teams should be better.
Dikembe Mutombo holding up the ball.
Dikembe Mutombo, exactly. But to what you just said about the buffer can go away really quick. The one we always reference is the Niners Super Bowl year. They were 9-0, right? And they didn't. It's not like they just started losing games. They just stopped winning all of them, and their buffer almost disappeared completely. And for the Raiders, it's like, you go, okay, if you had started the season and looked at the schedule, you wouldn't say, you got to win at the Steelers. And they don't have to win at the Steelers. It's a 17-week season. You don't have to win necessarily. But Miami comes in next. We'll see what Miami does against Buffalo. I don't expect them to win. I honestly don't think they should have beat the Patriots. But what if they did? What if they're 2-0 coming in? Then you look at that game a little bit differently.
But even win or lose with Miami, we just know they are a tough team to play, right? They play good defense. They're physical. Like, they're a challenging opponent.
I'm just saying, if you lose to Pittsburgh, now you're going to play a difficult game the next week. You'll probably be favored depending on how it looks and what they've done against Buffalo. But you lose that game, now you're 1-2, and you're playing the Chargers the next week.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of this. Is you can this isn't college football. Most of the games are losable games.
Where's that Charger game?
Not in San Diego, not in Carson, but in LA.
So the Raiders will claim it's a home game for them. Which, it'd probably be a lot of, silver and black, right?
Yeah. So, all right, John, before we go any further, let's tell the people about rexmd.com/ham. rexmd.com/ham. rexmd.com/ham has FDA approved generic Viagra starting at just $2 per tablet and delivered discreetly to your door.
That's the key. Listen, this is something that can be uncomfortable to talk about. We're all men, and we see the demos. You're all men listening. We have issues. And, we sometimes are quiet about our issues. Well, that's where RexMD comes in. They don't have to tell anyone. Guy got some pills. I got some pills. We didn't ask for them. They sent them to us. But, we use them. I don't know. I mean, you just keep on chugging. Keep it to yourself. They send it discreetly to your address. Generic Viagra. It's hard to beat, and it's cheap. That's where RexMD. They've helped hundreds of thousands of men. There's no copay. We all know that. You're like, I have insurance. You're like, well, you got to pay $150. You're like, what am I paying insurance for? No such thing. No doctor office visits, and your shipping is always free. If you're looking for generic Viagra, RexMD has made the process fast, easy, and most importantly, affordable.
So don't wait another minute. RexMD is now offering starter packs of generic Viagra for new customers. Just visit rexmd.com/ham right now to get started. That's rexmd.com/ham. Go get it. Podcast is also brought to you by Upstart.com/ham. Find out how you can lower a monthly payment or monthly payments today when you go to Upstart.com/ham.
We've all been there, guy. Had credit card debt. You and I once, started a podcast from scratch without much scratch, literally none. We had lost our radio jobs and we just had to make it happen. And you can just...
Well, luckily, we were getting paid for a few more months.
Yeah, that helped, I see you, Doug Peterson. Little less money, but, we've been there. And you can use credit cards to survive. It's happened to all of us, and it'll happen to even more people in the history of time. That's where credit cards can help you. But then they can also hurt you when they create anxiety because you look and you go, how am I going to pay off this high interest credit card debt? Well, I got our friends at Upstart, and they know you're just more than a credit score. Unlike other lenders, Upstart considers your income, your current employment, find out, what you will qualify for. With 5-minute online rate check, you can see your rate for loans between $1,000 and get this, up to $50,000. So right now, if you're looking at $40,000 in credit card debt and you're like, I have no clue how to pay this off, go to our friends at upstart.com/ham.
Upstart.com/ham. Don't forget to use that URL. Let them know that we sent you. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, your income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. A 5-minute online rate check to show upfront rates for loans. Go to upstart.com/ham. That's upstart.com/ham.
Before we get into the NFL slate, I do feel pretty good about the Fresno State Bulldogs at plus 11.5 for Saturday night. Pac-12 Network. You were right. Pac-12 Network. I like Fresno State in that game, keeping it close. Now, you're right. They're coming off a bye. But
UCLA's coming off a bye.
Fresno kind of is too. They play Cal Poly.
It's funny. I think Fresno State's kind of a public team this week because they looked so good 2 weeks ago against Oregon, and then Oregon looked really good against Ohio State.
But I just think they're solid.
I do too. They are.
So to me, there's a difference between being a public team and just like, maybe they're better than we think.
And there might not be enough. I don't have the volume. There might not be enough betting on the 49ers. The Bulldogs anyway to make them a quote unquote public team because they are solid.
I don't think an upset. It'd be crazy, but I don't think it's as crazy as people would think. I'm keeping my eye on this.
Well, I think the thing about UCLA is they look pretty real against LSU, but we also have not seen this UCLA team with any expectations ever. At least not external ones. No, they chip with high expectations internally, but it's only been 2 weeks, and I crowned their ass.
And I'm not diminishing anything from that win because we saw it. LSU has a ton of first-round talent, and they kicked their ass. But LSU might not be a well-coached team. They were up 17-0 to McNeese State in the third quarter.
Well, I don't think that. I think it's absolutely possible. And I said this last year that their coach Eddie O could lose his job after the season.
I heard someone rattle off the schedule coming up. I don't think it's a lock they make a bowl game. I mean, I think there's a decent chance he is unemployed. See, LSU is open. Can you imagine LSU and USC being open in the same offseason? You talk about like Lombardi's. We'll talk about all these NFL teams. Like there would be some coaches in the NFL as a coordinator, especially a coordinator who's worked in college. I guess wouldn't you just hire Joe Brady if you're LSU? Wouldn't he be in the mix?
Yeah, unless Joe thinks he can become has it gone well? Does he think he can become an NFL head coach?
Can you imagine being the head coach at LSU?
Well, would you rather be an NFL head coach or LSU's head coach?
Well, it's like, would you rather be the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings and Kirk Cousins, or be the head coach at LSU where you get to run the program?
Right.
You start thinking about some of the jobs that might come open. Like, would you rather be the head coach at football team? No. Eagles? No. I don't even know what job. Arizona? Yeah. I mean, fuck, Scottsdale's not. But he, if he's an East Coast guy, to him, he's been at LSU. He knows how sweet that place is. Wait, you're going to pay me $8 million to be the head coach at LSU? Like, it is. One thing I think about college, if you've experienced a little bit, and it can be intriguing at the highest level.
Yeah.
I don't know how many Lions aren't going to come open. The Jags could at any moment. Like that, let's just say hypothetically, Urban quits. We're playing the Broncos. Let's say he gets his ass kicked this weekend. And just they win 2 games all season. And let's just say the craziest thing happens. He quits, becomes the USC head coach. But the season went terribly for the Jags. Trevor's numbers look awful, and it just clearly didn't go well. Is that job not even close to as appealing as it was the day Urban took it, right? Or do you think people just 1 year, team was so shitty, Trevor Lawrence is a
I bet we're going to come out of this year, whatever the numbers are, and go, yeah, there's something there with Trevor Lawrence.
So if I'm Joe Brady, let's say the Panthers compete for a wild card and they win like 10 games, but they don't make it, but they have an unreal season. Sam's good. And Joe Brady's back in the mix now. LSU fires Ed. LSU wants him. The Jags and Trevor Lawrence now have an opening because Urban bounced. If you were Joe Brady's buddy, you'd be like, what job would you recommend?
I would say to him, guys turn down college head coaches with leverage like Lincoln Riley or Ryan Day, guys that get offered NFL jobs who can say no because they know another offer's coming. David Shaw. One of their number one pieces of criteria has to be, what is the quarterback situation? What did Kyle Shanahan say? He did take the Niner job, but remember, he said, I get why other guys take jobs. I felt like I was going to get a job. The quarterback situation was really important to me.
He claimed he would never take a job without a quarterback. Remember?
Did he say top 5 quarterback?
I think he said top 5.
Then he took a job. So, whatever.
With 0 quarterbacks on the roster.
But I would say to him, look, man, there is no promise that if you take one, you'll eventually one day be able to take the other. Yeah, go to LSU. The NFL will wait. Or yeah, take the NFL job. You could always go to LSU from there. There's no guarantee that's the case. You lose a bunch of games, you're not hot anymore, and now you're an analyst for Saban. And then you get a head coach. That's when you get the job. Is after that. But
so you're like, if that's you're 7 years away from getting back.
Coaches search their whole lives for franchise quarterbacks. Their whole lives. Most guys, 99% of coaches take jobs that with a quarterback that they would swap him out in a heartbeat if they could.
Yeah.
And so if this year plays out and Trevor Lawrence looks like he's a franchise quarterback that almost everyone thinks he is, then I think that's the job you take.
But his season in the pros for the 1 year is bad.
Yeah, it's
That's
just
what I mean.
Numerically bad, or like we.
Yeah, I'm just saying it just looks like it was awful, just bad. He just looks bad.
To me, it's as simple as, did we look at it and think he's still a franchise quarterback or not? If the answer is no, then no. But if the answer is yes, then yes. That's
because I do think that is a fair. Trevor Lawrence and the Jags open USC, LSU. If you were ranking the jobs, people like Mike Lombardi would probably have the Jags last. Even if you're just more than the quarterback, the ownership, the franchise, like there's just.
Once upon a time, you would have had the Browns last, and then they hired the right coach.
Stefanski's really good.
That's what I mean.
I guess all these guys would think they're good. Yeah.
And he does say, Baker is clearly a very good NFL starting quarterback.
Very good. The one way a Chiefs staff member described him to me, he said he was incredibly accurate live. And Dilfer even mentioned it. Like, he was really impressed with his accuracy. Like,
Did
his
Dilfer
accuracy.
say the Brees thing?
He compared him to Brees, but he just said, like, his ability on throws that I think the casual guys, like, that's an easy throw. He's like, that throws really hard.
I think it was Dilfer saying, is Baker okay? Can Baker play like, will Baker be okay playing like Brees?
But the play that he threw the pick that ended the game was not Drew Brees, right?
Or is he going to try and be Favre sometimes?
Yeah.
Which is it? Because Brees just didn't. Did you see the stat on that Jameis Winston touchdown?
No.
That Jameis threw the ball, whatever. He threw a touchdown pass that I think was 50 air yards, and that Brees never in his career threw a ball with 50 air yards. It was some stat like that. It was something insane. The pass was incredible. Let me see if I can find it here.
I heard a stat last week that Jameis, as an underdog in his career, has covered at an insane rate. Just covered. And if you think about it, like, for a lot of those years in Tampa, he had to be probably the greatest garbage time quarterback in the history of garbage time, just throwing up stats, even before Arians got there. Something to keep an eye on as our gambling grows here. The Jameis underdog. It's just, and I started thinking, I was like, it kind of makes some sense because he won't give a shit. He ain't scared.
Yeah. Interesting.
His air yardage. When do you ever remember, close your eyes and imagine a Drew Brees pass? Like, he threw slants and outs. He didn't throw even his Jimmy Graham pass against the Niners in that playoff game was probably like 25 yards, right? Down the middle of the field. He never threw trying to think of someone when did he throw go routes? He doesn't. Like, that just wasn't part of their arsenal. It's actually, you could argue it's more of a testament to like how elite his head coach was, that he had a quarterback who couldn't throw it downfield and they kicked ass for a decade plus. It's pretty remarkable, guy.
I'll correct the stat here. Because it was a touchdown pass, this was the 50 air yards. Drew Brees attempted 9,421 passes for the Saints and never had a touchdown with 50 air yards. So he had throws with 50 air yards, but never for a touchdown.
But probably a long time ago, I would imagine.
I think it was the first one it was the first one maybe since 2016 that the Saints have had a QB throw an air yard ball.
So he's done it before.
Yeah. Maybe it was a Hail Mary. I don't know. Okay, you want to bum, 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 bum. I don't know why that's the music here, but we can dive into all the NFL games. What do you think?
Yeah, fire the ones that you're fired up on.
Well, are you treating this all? Are you treating?
No,
this
I'm good. No, I'm excited. No, I mean, I'm in.
Like the preseason.
Right. I'm into all these games.
Okay. Where do I have this schedule? Here we go, John. Bum, 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 bum.
I say I'm into all the games, and I see the first game. I'm like,
Bengals-Bears. This is just, we go through the games. If you got to take, you got to take. Have a take. Do not suck. Bengals-Bears. This is we'll start in the 10 a.m. slate, John. Bengals-Bears. Imagine getting this game on file. Like, there's some good games this week. Let me see what my Fox morning game is. Bengals-Bears. Andy Dalton still starting?
Yeah, my one take is Matt Nagy better win this game. Like, you got to win this game. That's the end of story, period, point blank. You cannot, even if the Bengals turn out to be like, when the dust settles, maybe they're like a 6 or 7 win team, they're better than you think. It will not look good Sunday night, Monday morning for him. You have to win this game. at
Yep.
home. You got to win this game.
Well,
That's all. That's all I got.
On one hand, you're rooting for Matt Nagy. On the other hand, if you want to see Fields, maybe an L here gets you closer to Justin Fields.
Yeah, but an L, like does he make it to October 1st? I mean,
Well, who's replacing him? One of the 9 offensive coordinators.
Yeah,
Quarterback
I
coaches
just
he's got.
yeah, you got to win this game. Maybe he doesn't have a replaceable guy on his staff, but you just can't lose this game.
Well, I think he might actually. Okay, next up.
Well,
Houston.
honestly, I if I was going to gamble on this game, I might take the Bengals.
Would you have a line on that? I don't have it up in that fashion. I should have pulled up my bookies.
I got it. It is see this line. What would you guess it is?
I would guess it's Chicago 1.5.
Line's very telling. It's 2.
Yeah,
it's not a good sign.
Especially in Chicago. Like, it's one thing to not have a home field advantage, at a loud, a corporate stadium. But
well, I'll give you a hypothetical here. They win the toss. They receive. They go 3 and out. First series of the season at home. Game 1 of the 8 home games. 100% boos, right? Series 1.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Like, everyone in the stadium is booing. Series 1.
Yep.
Think how loud it would be by a halftime if you're down like 10-0. It could just, I'm telling you, I don't think any team can get as ugly as fast as that team.
Here's the thing
with the fans.
They've already played Fields, so we know that they'll go to him. All right, we spent too much time on that game. Next up, Houston at Cleveland. Here's a quick take for you. If this were college football, we'd say, God, Cleveland last week was such a big game for them to open with Kansas City. They had it. They lost it. Can they recover emotionally from it? So that's part of my question here is, let's see what Houston is, but they just played the Jags week 1. Can Cleveland just take care of their business here? How they look to me, I am giving them a win in this game. I'm not even thinking much about it. I think they're really good, and they showed it last week. They're really good. Can they just kick the Texans' ass and show no hangover from that game? It wasn't just the Chiefs. It was the Chiefs week 1. So if you have the 1-0 mentality, you're talking about week 1 the whole time. It's the Chiefs game. There's no like, we're not thinking about the Chiefs yet. We got to take care of the Bengals here week 1. It's like, no, week 1 was the Chiefs. So even in the coach football mind of we only take it 1 week at a time, that was the game they were taking 1 week at a time, and they lost it in heartbreaking fashion. So I just want to see him kick the Texans' ass.
I agree. Like, to me, you should look up from your couch and it should be 24-0 at halftime, right? Something like that. They're just killing them.
Do you have my bookie up while we're going through this?
Yeah, 12.5.
Rams at Colts was the one I was a little more interested in. The Colts, I thought, looked offensively disjointed last week with Carson. He looked uncomfortable. I don't think that's something you fix by week 2. Maybe it gets a little better. I don't know what the number is. I would guess it's Rams 4.5.
Rams minus 3.5. So
okay,
you're getting a home dog that was a playoff team last year.
I know.
A home dog playoff team? That's pretty crazy.
Okay, if it was 2.5, I'd like the Rams. Fine, you convinced me.
3.5. I kind of like the Colts money line in this.
You're right.
I think the Rams can go 12-5. If you go, one of their 5 losses, maybe 2 divisional games and a road game at Indy, like, that's not that crazy.
I guess remember last year the Colts lost week 1 to the Jags. We're like, what is wrong with them? And then they came back and played.
I think from a gambling perspective, I do think there's value in teams that lost the previous week.
I agree.
Early in the season
against the team on national TV that looked great, the Rams,
especially a talented team. This is a early morning kickoff. Indy is one of those sneaky, like, you think Midwest, but it's actually Eastern time zone. So it's, throws you off. I remember going to the combine.
Probably not sneaky to the rest of the world.
Yeah. But does that feel like an Eastern time zone city to you?
No, feels in the Midwest.
I know, it does.
Yep. Okay, next up, John, Bills at Dolphins. This is a great game.
It is. It's a big game.
You're right, it is a big game. This was the game last year, right, where Josh Allen and Fitzmagic each had huge passing days. I don't expect I don't know how much. Did you watch much of the Miami game last week?
Yeah, I watched it back.
Tua, I think they dropped like 3 or 4 balls. They were not helping Tua out.
Made some nice throws, also made some stupid throws. He didn't look terrible. I thought Waddle looked remarkable. Like Waddle's speed is like Reggie Bush in college. Like, holy shit, this guy's fast.
Yeah.
To me, they are South Beach Patriots. They want to play an ugly physical style. They wish Tua was elite, but ultimately Tua is just going to be a game manager. And to me, their wins are going to be 21-20, 17-16, 24-17. Like the Bills, in theory, should be putting up 30 points. Now, can they put up 30 points against a good defense? I don't know. I mean, it's a big game. I mean, if the Dolphins start 2-0, talk shit all you want about Tua, it actually speaks to how well they're being run, right?
Yep. And then we set up a big game next week with the Raiders.
But also, then the Bills start 0-2. Like, they were just in the AFC Championship game. I know it was a COVID year, but still, like, they were viewed like it didn't feel not normal. They just gave Josh Allen $150 million guaranteed.
Patriots and Jets, we talked about that game earlier. Niners and Philly, we've been talking about that game all week. Vegas and Pittsburgh, we've talked about that quite a bit. Anything to add to any of those games?
I think the morning slate, beside the Rams, Indy, like for us in Northern California, just getting the Niners, Philly, and Vegas and Steelers, like if I had to pick, like those are right near the top. Like I feel good about what the games we're getting because there are some really shitty games, and I like pretty good. You know, the two buried. I mean, one's in Vegas now, but you know what I mean.
Yep, it's a really good game. I also think New Orleans and Carolina, not a great game. Jameis is quickly becoming. I was a little pessimistic that this could, like that he would look like the potential franchise quarterback again, but maybe he's going to look like a potential franchise quarterback again. Now that first game, I don't know, but Jameis is just
if they start 2-0, they beat the Packers, and then they, basically 2 road games because they got booted out of the area.
Right,
be pretty impressive.
And if you're them, you're like, well, look at we already beat the Packers head to head. To your point, and the NFC West is going to beat itself up. Like, why can't we be the 1 seed again?
Spin zone, is this a home game?
I guess you can't be. It'd be hard to be the 1 seed, but
I guess they played in Jacksonville last week, not Carolina.
Yeah,
is that where they played last week?
No, they played. Did they play in Jacksonville? Or did they?
Either Carolina or Jacksonville. I think it was Jacksonville, but don't quote me on that. One of those two.
Wasn't Charlotte?
Yeah, they were displaced. Well, isn't that where the Panthers play in Charlotte?
Yeah, were they at home?
The Panthers, yeah, because they played the Jets. Because the Giants played.
Right.
You're right. Yeah, it was in Jacksonville.
Okay,
I was actually shocked when they showed some of the crowd shots in that Jacksonville game. Like I thought, like if you just lived there, I would never go to a Jacksonville game, but I'd go watch Packers, right?
Yeah. Denver at Jacksonville. That's our. Did we say it earlier? That's our dud of the week.
Yeah, dud of the week. Okay. Dud of the week.
All right, afternoon games: Minnesota at Arizona. It's just Arizona early on. Like, are they going to build themselves Are they going to build themselves up? Like, yes, we are one of the teams to beat in the NFC. The question with them is longevity over the course of a season, not just early. But they should win this game. I'm guessing that line is pretty big.
See, I got this one red flag. What would you guess the line is?
My guess is that line is Arizona 7.5.
It's 3.5.
Ooh.
I do think this. Last year, I was texting with someone. I forget who it was. Not like just someone that covers the NFL. And they were saying, look back last year at Arizona. They lost a lot of games after big wins. They were a very up and down team. And I think this is what we were talking about earlier, the ebb and flow of week 1 to week 2. So week 2, you just think, oh, the Vikings suck. They lost to the Cincy. But what if it turns out Cincy is actually better than you think? And Minnesota just had a weird start. Like Arizona clearly got up for that game. They approached week 1 as they should have, like fucking a huge game. And they kicked the shit out of Tennessee. All of a sudden, human nature, you see Minnesota, like, we're way better. And these guys start feeling yourself. And all of a sudden, it's like tie game, third quarter. That's kind of what I envision. Because, yeah, in theory, you're right. Guy, how is this not like a 9-point line? 3.5? That to me is Minnesota's winning this game.
You want to take Minnesota's lock of the week? Next up, the Atlanta at Tampa.
There's some bad games this week, guy.
Dallas at the Chargers. This has the potential to be a fun game. I said earlier, Draftkings. This is a mojo moment, John, for the Dallas Cowboys. Big mojo moment here, this whole thing. couple of things. One, give me Justin Herbert's probably going to be. I haven't made my lineup yet, but I'm guessing he costs quite a bit of dough on DraftKings this week.
I got him.
You
I bet
already
his
got him.
ownership. What do you think his ownership is going to be? 100 out
A
of 200
million.
people?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge against this Dallas team. Dak might be worth taking from that perspective too. Is Greg like, if this team's gonna be competitive, do they have a kicker problem, or did Greg Zuerlein miss 3 kicks on Thursday Night Football to start the season and then forgot about it and moved on? I don't know, but it's going to be a big deal for them because with their defense, they might be playing in a ton of close games. They cannot afford to be giving away possessions and coming up empty on good possessions because their kicker's missing kicks, because their defense is not going to stop anybody. So that could be a major
crowd
problem
is going to be, what do you think, 85% Cowboy fans?
Huge Cowboy home game coming up here in LA. Yeah.
I mean, massive.
Oxnard, stand up.
Massive. That game is really good. I'm really excited to consume that thing.
Yeah.
That's Nance and Romo, 425. Either Buck or Aikman or Nance and Romo. One of the
CBS,
two.
so it's Nance and Romo.
Yeah, I guess Romo and Buck and Aikman probably have Titans Seattle, because those are 2 425 games.
No, that's a CBS game as well.
So what do you think, old Buck and
maybe Rams-Colts?
Yeah, they could be doing an early morning. Don't they always do the afternoon, or sometimes they do the morning?
Oh, well, could they be doing Atlanta-Tampa? That's the afternoon. They're not doing Minnesota-Arizona. The afternoon Fox game is Atlanta-Tampa. Would they do that game?
It doesn't feel like it, but I mean, maybe you just ride Brady like you do, McDonald's does the, Big Mac. Like, it's just, this is what we got, and you better,
Could be.
Ride it to the promised land.
We can look into that if we care enough about it. This next game, Tennessee at Seattle's, I think, fascinating, because the question with Seattle, I think it's possible. Here's an early Seattle take for you. It's possible that this is the year that Seattle doesn't ride the roller coaster that Seattle usually rides, that they are just really consistent. Offensively, they show up for every game. I said this the other day, and I know I said this after the Packers got blown out, but this offense tends to be pretty consistent. In Russell's hands, it can be explosive. But Seattle's problem often is they are one of the best teams in the league on their good days, and then they can play down to just about anybody that they play, and they end up in some really weird games. Some of Tennessee's problems on offense might be real.
2 words for you, guy. Todd Downing.
What did you just send me? Did you send me something about Todd Downing yesterday?
I don't think it was me. It might have been someone else.
Oh. Usually if I get a text from about Todd Downing, it's from Middlecoff, but maybe it was somebody else. But I think Seattle, we might look at them and go like, no, they're not taking any weeks off. So I think they look good again this week. But this is part of the deal. Like, are they going to look good this week and look like the team that on their best days they can be?
Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Andrews, and Christina Pink do not have a weekend game. If you're watching this, obviously if you listen to this, the game already happened, but those guys do the Thursday night game, and then they got nothing the rest of the week. So,
is that the way it's going to be all year?
No, I just think this week, the way it played out, I don't know. Man, maybe Buck has, I don't know why, but they do not have a game from what I see. The Niners, Adam Amin, Schlereth, and the Raider game is Ian Eagle, Charles Davis, Evan Washburn. So the number 2 crew, Tampa, is Burkhardt, Greg Olson, who's actually pretty good. I enjoy listening to him. He basically just took over for John Lynch.
Burkhardt was doing the Arthego-Whiteside the other day in the Eagles game.
Is that the game he called? Eagles-Falcons?
Yeah.
With Olsen.
And then Sunday Night Football, Chiefs and Ravens.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
I think Mahomes he's already been getting it, but just the Tom Brady paid Manning treatment, like max him out. How many games? We'll max them out and then leave their potential for flex games, weeks 12 through 17. I couldn't believe when you said in preseason you don't want to watch. Anytime Mahomes is on a football field, that's why I watch football for him.
Oh yeah,
but I just want to watch Patrick Mahomes. I think he's one of the most remarkable players of any sport I've ever watched.
He is,
just from a fun player. I just get joy watching him play.
Monday night, what are you going to do Monday? What do you want to do Monday night?
We can talk about that on Sunday.
Well, I just mean, like, do you have any plans Monday night? Because if you don't, you can make them. Lions, Packers, Monday Night Football.
Oh, yeah.
The good thing, if you're that broadcast crew, you're like, this is good. If the Packers had won 30-3 week one, this would be painful. But they lost. So you get a little, is something wrong with Aaron? Is Aaron's mood killing the locker room?
It just turns into like a 3-hour podcast about Aaron Rodgers, though. That's, to me, what that game's going to turn into.
A lot of Dan Campbell.
Yeah, but I mean, what's going to happen when they're down 30 to
nothing?
nothing?
You do something for them in the broadcast, too.
Goff. Yeah, I'll have something for Goff.
Panay,
Feeling bad
for
a
film breakdown of Sewell.
Okuda. He just tore his Achilles, team captain.
Got yelled at and tore his Achilles.
Yeah, it sucks.
So, all right, that's the big weekend ahead. That's what we got.
Yeah.
That's what we got.
It's a long Thursday pod.
Al says, since 1990, teams that are 1-1 go to the playoffs. Only 18% of the time. Teams that are 2-0 go 60% of the time.
I think we need to scrap these stats. Another game.
It's a pretty dramatic difference.
It is.
You just don't know after 2 you don't know after 2 weeks who's the 60 and who's the 40%.
I also think we need to be careful moving forward. Is like, are these teams built for January? Well, every team gets to play in January now. I was always like, January football just meant the playoffs.
So what are you going to say? The playoffs?
Well, I don't know. The Bengals get a game in January now, like every team. I actually had a Bengal fan.
I always think of that as like a cold weather comment,
Well, that's like November, December is what I thought. And then use the word January. It means like big time football games. I had a Bengal fan that's like fired into my DMs. He's like, do you think it's unfair the way that we get talked about? He's like, we won the division 4 times. We made the playoffs 6 times in the last 12 years. Yet we get considered like we're the Lions or the Browns the last 20 years. And we don't really have that as much in common with them. We've won a lot in a division that's pretty hard and beaten those teams a lot. Like we won the division when the Steelers didn't, or beat the Ravens. It's like, you bring up a fair point. I think it's kind of your owner,
who's been the executive of the year in the NFL.
I know. They do get lumped in.
It's not a bad, but their lows have been so.
But they've had some highs. No playoff wins.
And they've had just some solid. Like the Marvin, they had just some real solid. You're right.
I think that was a solid win week 1. I mean, that was beat the Vikings. I mean, they were like a 7-point underdog.
Even in the face of logic, I still feel like, no, they get treated appropriately.
I agree. That was my take. I'm like,
Can't stand up for you on this one, man. Good luck, though, out there.
I think his point was no one fights for them. Can you imagine if the Raiders had that resume?
And you were like, yeah, man, you make a good point. I mean, I'm not going to fight for you, but good luck with your battle.
Yeah, keep fighting the good fight. Go Buckeyes.
All right. Get into the mailbag. Leave us a review on iTunes. We always appreciate that, an iTunes review. And, we were thinking like, we'll keep this pod tight for the weekend, but big one.
Gets away from you.
Hope you can lift it. Thanks, everybody.
Later.